Welcome to Death and Aliens, an in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two friends who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm MK,
And I'm Courtney.
and Courtney, how are you?
Well, for those of you in the world of theater, you know that a week from today, when this comes out, a week from today, is the Tonys.
Oh shit, that's right.
Yeah, it's the 11th. So I have been grinding to try and get Broadway shows in. I've probably now seen like 8 or 9 of the Tony noms, which is much more than last year, I can tell you. So this week, I it was my first week not working at the bar during the week. I had my last shift on Saturday. And so I just took myself out all week.
I love it.
Monday, I took myself to see the weirdest movie, which I talked about last week on the podcast. And then Wednesday, I went and saw Doll's House. And I am friends with everyone who works at the Hudson. So they got me into like the Ambassador's Lounge, which I didn't know existed. And it was this lovely little bar that I just had some wine in
Nice.
and made a friend. So it's a magical experience. And then Thursday, I went and saw New York, New York, which was incredible.
Yes.
Um, have not seen the movie, but I was looking it up today to see where it's available at. It's only available illegally, unless you buy the DVD. But it stars Liza Minnelli and Robert De Niro. I had no idea Robert De Niro was in it. That is a wild like thing to me. Like
Yeah.
Liza Minnelli, I was not surprised by. Like I know she's in a lot of those movies, so I was like not surprised. But Robert De Niro, who would have thought? I mean everyone who's seen that movie, obviously. But
Correct.
and then Friday I went and saw Fat Ham, which have you heard of it? So it came out 2021. They did a digital recording of it in Philly at the Wilma Theater
Mm.
for like digital release for a limited time. Um, and then it premiered at the public last May. And then it came to Broadway this March. We're talking about it on our podcast soon, so I just got my notes for it. But it came
Nice.
out this March. It's through end of June, I think. And it is a queer Black Southern, like I say child, they're in college. They're not like child,
Right.
um, kind of figuring out their identity like while living in the South. But it's an iteration's not the right word, but it's like a adaptation of Hamlet. It is one of the wildest shows I've ever seen. Like it starts off like a sitcom and then it like ends with like a huge Broadway production. It is it's just incredibly insane. It is a wild ride. But
Yeah.
that said, all those shows were incredible and I've spent my week just seeing shows and like living life. Um, how are you?
I also I've had a week, but it's mostly just the last 2 days have been epically bad. But I had a couple of big arts moments this week that I will talk about too. So Friday, I went to the orchestra in the morning because Dan had a show. It was their Patriotics Pops concert. So like Pops concerts are orchestra
Like
concerts where they don't play classical music. Um,
like Boston's Pops, I asked.
Yes, yes. But so the pops are shows are just orchestra shows where they play more modern music. But like and but so this was their patriotic pops. So it was like all of the songs that you think of about America, you know. Got some George M. Cohen, you got some Neil Diamond, you got some The Battle Hymn of the Republic, like all the everything that you think they played, they probably played. I have decided that I'm going to appeal to them that next year they need to play the theme song from The West Wing because that is what I think of when I think of America. Uh,
I love it. Can you also
so,
appeal to them to do a horror themed show?
sure. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Um, their pops conductor is my new favorite person. He has so much energy. I can't even stand it. Like it was just absolutely a joy to watch him like conduct the choir or the orchestra and the choir. I just loved it. Um, Then on Friday night, I went to my friend's art gallery. She has art on the show,
I
and it
love
was
art galleries.
beautiful. There's this like there's art gallery in Buffalo that has a program called like Jump Forward or something like that, but it is for youth, like people in high school and college who are learning how to like market themselves as artists and everything. And they do all kinds of like, they take classes and they do all kinds of like visual mediums. So there was like photography, there was video, there was sculpture, there was painting, like all different kinds of paintings and drawings and multimedia art and all kinds of stuff. And my friend, she's a teacher now, but she was in one of their very first classes that they ever had at the studio. And so she had two pieces that they had up for sale at the art gallery. So we went to the gallery opening, and that was very fun. And then on Saturday, I worked the Kenny Awards.
Yes, right. You explained to me what those were last week. How'd it go?
Yeah, it went really, really well. The
Who
kids,
won?
Barker High School, which is actually one of the schools that I was going to apply to work at, but they're like a 45, 50-minute drive from my house. So that's a lot to do in the morning, every morning.
Is it
Um,
Kenny Awards like Kenny?
yes,
I'll tell my dad. He'll love that. His name is Kenny,
perfect,
and he'll feel like they're
perfect,
for him.
perfect. But so Barker won. They did Cinderella was their show, that they won for
Which one?
the Rodgers and Hammerstein. But the kids, so the thing about Kenny's is it's a feeder program. So like the kids who won overall scored, like their school gets a grant and everything, and that's the really cool part about it. But
That is very cool.
the two big awards, like the overall musical and the grant, are obviously great. But the two really big awards are leading actor and leading actress, because they then get to go to New York City to um participate in the Jimmys, which I don't know if you know anything about theater, you know who Renee Rapp is. She's a former Jimmy
Yes.
Award winner. And then, oh God, what is that poor kid, that sweet little blonde boy who took over as Evan Hansen on Broadway, who was also
Oh, after Ben Platt?
yeah,
I don't know.
Evan Hansen's.
I saw a dark-headed kid when I saw it, so
I feel like most of them have been dark-headed.
Mhm.
I you would be so impressed at the level of how wrong I just spelled all of the words in Evan and Hansen. Not okay, Evan Hansen. I don't care about buying tickets. I want to know the cast, the notable replacements. That's what I want.
I was like, it closed. I just
Yes,
saw a different show there.
um, was this the child that I'm, yes, no. Um, what am I talking about?
I have
It
no
must,
idea.
no, it must, no, that's the original. Oh, because this is not telling me. Oh, there we go. Notable replacements. Andrew Barth Feldman. That's who I'm thinking of. I knew he had three
Oh, yes,
names.
I did actually know him. Yeah.
Yes. So Andrew Barth Feldman, he was a Jimmy Award winner as well.
Good for him.
So he and Renee Rapp actually won the same year, like they won together.
Oh,
Yeah, so these kids who I'm at are the future Renee Rapp and Andrew Barth Feldman, maybe.
love it.
So
Love it.
So yeah, that was on my theater and art. So I had some like orchestra and some theater and some visual arts. It was
I
lovely.
missed out on the visual arts, which is sad. I love an art gallery.
Me.
Ugh.
So also, as you can tell, I'm drinking wine because that lovely story about art was only a very small portion of my week.
And you can see I'm drinking coffee because I have to work with my nonprofit later tonight. So I have to be a person for that.
So because you are more of a person than I am right now, you're in the perfect position to share some spiritual wisdom or guidance with me.
Today, I decided to just keep it simple because it's been a lot lately. So today, my guidance for you whatever you decide to do in life, make sure it makes you happy.
I love it. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Fantastic. You know what else is fantastic? Stargate. And today I actually really mean it.
I actually really liked it. I almost
Yes.
got too over the top excited and I had to like dial myself back in.
Yeah, so this episode, Stargate SG-1 Season 3, Episode 18, was called Shades of Grey. It was rated
Not as in
8.
50 shades,
No,
just shades. Of
just a few. Just a few. It was rated 8.4 stars.
Fair.
So this is the highest so far of the season.
Oh, fair.
Yeah, it is. It's not the highest. It's not the highest of the season overall. We will get there. But I believe, unless I completely messed up, that it is the highest
So far.
so far. And it came out on February 11th, 2000. So when I was still a mere 7 years old. Oh, it is tied. 8.4 is tied for the highest with the alternate reality episode.
I don't remember that one. I'm
The
sorry.
one where Kowalski came back, but then it was just because Sam and Kowalski.
Yeah.
Yes. So on February 11th, 2000, I forgot to look if anything exciting happened at all. Nothing changed in terms of the movie, the book, or the song. They're all the same.
I can tell you what was happening that was exciting. What year was this? We were 7?
Yeah, we were 7.
We were sitting in our homes with our families, having some candy, and we were creating our Valentine's cards for our entire classes, probably Lisa Frank themed, and or those little, I don't know if those Happy Bunny ones were popular yet. That may have been a few years later.
No.
But it's Scooby-Doo and Lisa Frank themed. And
Beautiful.
We were getting ready and we were stoked. That's what happened on that day.
Yeah, a bomb went off in New York City, but nobody died.
Well, that's good. I like my version of that day better.
Yeah, and a couple French movie directors that I've never heard of before died. And we were making Valentines. Oh, also, apparently 3 people died in a fire in Staten Island. Maybe don't go to New York City in the year 2000, apparently. Or the year 2001, honestly. But that's it.
Or the year 2023. We have too many people here. Please do not come.
Yeah.
I need more space.
Yeah. It's gonna be real weird. Just oh no, it's not. That's good. Sorry, I just looked at season 5 to make sure there was no episode on September 11th, 2001. There wasn't.
That's best. That's best.
There wasn't an
I
episode.
didn't think about that.
I was like, ooh, we're getting to some weird vibes.
It all goes downhill from here, guys.
Yeah. The episode was directed by Martin Wood, written by Jonathan Glassner, and edited by Rick Martin. So nothing new there either. The guest star the guest star that I'm going to talk about is also not really new, and I'm also not 100% sure I haven't talked about him already, because the last time he made the top credits was season 2, so like it was a while ago. But I looked at the episodes that he's been in before, and I'm 90% sure I haven't talked about him yet.
I won't remember if you had, so it's fine.
Yeah. So we're talking about Steve McCage, who played Colonel Makepeace.
Like I would remember his name too, and I don't.
Yeah. I'm talking about him because he's been in it quite a few times before now, but he will not be back based on the end of this episode.
Okay. So, I mean, look, I can't base anything off what happens in the episodes.
That's fair. But this is one of the ones where they are going to stick to what they did.
Great. I love it. I'm here for it.
Yeah. So Steve McCage is known for Stargate SG-1, for X-Files, for a show called Creature.
I may have
And
heard of that.
yeah, he played some two weird things that connect to past things in this podcast. He played Ben's dad in the original It miniseries.
I've not watched that one.
I only did as a child by being forced to watch it and being incredibly traumatized.
Yeah, I just watched the original It movie like over the holidays, and I'm
Like the
30.
Tim Curry, no, like the one
Yeah.
with, yeah, no, that's what I'm talking about in the Tim Curry, because the Tim Curry movie was actually not a movie, it was a miniseries.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I forgot about. I watched it
Yeah,
as a movie
yeah,
because I just watched it.
right. But so he was Ben's dad in the Tim Curry miniseries of It,
Gotcha.
which does connect back to our podcast, just in the sense of Bill Skarsgård being Pennywise. And also one of my friends who is in no way connected to this podcast and never has been, weirdly shared a TikTok the other day that was just a thirst trapped picture of a bunch of pictures of Roman Godfrey. To which I immediately,
Did you?
yes, I
Okay.
did. I sent it to you and Monica and said, the show is still terrible, but I will never stop simping for this man.
Did you respond to their TikTok with, did you listen to Death and Alien season 1?
No, because it was a repost, not like they didn't post it themselves. That it was one of those things where they like reposted it to their feed, and I don't know if the comment goes to them or to the person who originally posted it. So like my
Doesn't
tone,
matter.
it's true, but my tone of voice would change depending on who I'm talking to, and I didn't know what to do with myself.
That's fine. Post 2 comments, one for your friend and one for this random person, and then you got all your bases covered.
That's true. That's true. And then the other thing that connects to our podcast was that he was in one episode of Bates Motel. His character was named Man. So
Wow.
very, very
Impressive.
very high credit. Man in parentheses, Amelia's boyfriend. I don't remember anybody in the show being named Amelia. So not only is Man completely nondescript, the person who he was apparently with was also nondescript. It was from season 3, episode 9. Crazy. And I don't remember him being in it at all. So
I cannot figure out who Amelia is in my head. So that's cool.
exactly.
We just covered an entire show for a year and I don't know anything about it. It's okay.
It's great. Well, I mean, to be fair, his character's name was Man.
Sure, but I feel like I should Amelia if she has a name,
Right. I don't know. So that was his connections to our previous work. And then we get into this episode that I surprisingly did not take a ton of pages of notes. Like I only have like 3 pages, which is
I have a page and a half,
which is less than what I usually have. But it's because the episode kind of, I don't know, actually ran together in a way that made sense.
Yeah.
So the show starts with the Stargate team on Tolana talking to the High Council to negotiate a trade for weapons. And the High Council says no, because they can't guarantee that the weapons will actually be used in defense. They could be used to attack other people on Earth, because, that's what militaries on Earth have a history of doing. And Jack's like, I can promise you they won't. And she's like, are you in charge of your entire country? And he was like, no. She's like, then you can't promise me shit.
I wonder, I don't know if this is a fun factor, if you've looked it up at all. I wonder if they filmed this episode with the episode before the last one, because it felt very cohesively like we finished that episode and started this one, even though there's one in between. It's been like 4 months or whatever, but it
that probably, honestly, in terms of budgeting and filming, they probably did film it together just so that they didn't have to recreate the set. They probably were like, okay, we're going to need this set for this one episode, so let's do these scenes in part of this filming block.
What I would have done.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. A lot of times they do things like that, like especially like I know in Doctor Who, you can often there's episodes 1, 2, and 3, but episode 1 is part of filming block 1, and episode 6 is also part of filming block 1, and it just depends on which directors are around, which locations they're using. So probably yes. Um, but then Jack gets pissed off and super aggressive and agitated that they won't share the weapon and just like steals the weapon disabler out of the wall.
I was like, Jack, you can't steal technology. That's not allowed.
And Daniel and Sam and Teal'c are like, bruh. He's like, fuck these people, and just leaves.
Rude.
And then the credits happen, and it's like, what did I just watch?
What just happened? I thought for sure he was like drugged or like impersonated by an alien or something.
It was interesting. Then we go back to base where they're showing the weapon disabler to Hammond, and Hammond is like incredibly excited about it, and he's like, this is amazing, like we have to learn how to make this, like this is so great. He's like, okay, so what did you have to promise? I apologize, I just made you yawn.
You sure did. You sure did.
And he's like, so what did you have to like like what did you have to trade to get this? And everybody just gets hella awkward.
Yeah.
And Jack's like,
all of our morals. That's what we traded for this.
And Jack's like, yeah, about that. We didn't trade anything. And he's like, they just gave it to you? And he's like, nope, I took it. Oh, okay.
No, Jack.
And Hammond is like, you can't fucking do that. And then Jack, and he goes, this is a court-martialable offense. Like, you're stealing technology from one of our allies, like, blah, blah, blah. And then Jack goes full, I wrote full Teddy Roosevelt. Because the way he was talking just reminded me of Teddy Roosevelt's military policy, like the whole idea that Roosevelt is the walk tall and carry a big stick, like the anger, like, and I know that's so weird, but he was like,
I am so bad at remembering those parts of history that I was like, I don't know.
But so he's like, this is why we're gonna die. The Goa'uld are gonna come back, and we're never gonna be prepared because we're too busy being the nice guy. That we're always trying to be diplomatic, and that's not what America does. Like he went full imperialism, like, and Hammond is like, if you don't shut the fuck up right now, we are gonna have a problem.
He was off the rails.
He was, and he was like, I am relieving you of your duty and sending you to the infirmary until I call for you again. And you need to fill eval. I don't know what the fuck is going on with you. And then while Jack is off doing whatever the fuck he's doing, the gate activates and they close the iris, but of course it's the toll one, so they don't need an iris. They just walk through that shit. And the High Chancellor is like, yeah, I'm here for the shit that you took from me.
Yeah, I was like, that was real fast.
And they're like, you can't like blame the entire people for the actions of one person. She's like, one person, my ass, you were all there and none of you stopped him. Like, I'm cutting off all diplomatic ties. We're done. And Hammond's like,
you gotta throw Jack under the bus.
Right. And Hammond's like, how about we have a conversation? And so he escorts the High Chancellor away. In the infirmary, Jack is acting like a huge dickbag. Like, not even just like normal Jack, like just being a quite big douche to Janet.
Yeah.
And he like tries to leave the infirmary. He's like, all right, call me when you find whatever aliens are in my brain. And
yeah, I was like, this is wild. I like I couldn't even keep up anymore. I was like, I don't know what's happening.
And he's like, I'm getting out of here. And Teal'c's like, no, you're not. I don't understand why you're acting like this. And Teal'c is like genuinely perturbed and a little hurt. But then Hammond calls and sends for Jack. And then the scene that really just got my goat. On his way to Hammond, Jack runs into Sam, and she was like, "Are you okay?" And he's like, "I'm fine." And she's like, "Well, you're not acting like yourself." And he says, "No, I haven't been acting like myself since I met you. This is the real me."
How dare you, Jack? I almost lost it. I was
Yeah.
not well.
But like, he was like, "Yeah, sorry to burst your bubble. Fun fact, I'm actually an asshole." Like,
Ugh.
um. So then he gets to Hammond's office, and Hammond's like, "We just had a conversation with the Tolan. Here is how things are going to go. Either you're going to retire early, or you're going to go to jail." And Jack's like, "Remember how I retired early once, and then you made me not?" And he's like, "Yeah, but he's like, I stole one piece of technology, and you're going to court-martial me for that?" And he goes, "Here, let me read all of the other things that you have done that are not." And in combination, each of these
Right.
each of these instances by themselves are kind of a slap on the wrist, but in combination, you are shit out of luck if I court martial you.
Yeah.
And so Jack's like, "Cool, I will take that retirement bid. Bye."
Good choice. Good choice. More
Yeah.
than fair. I would have just punched him in the face, but whatever.
Yeah. Then so Jack retires and he's off at his house playing chess and drinking a beer because what else do you do when you retire? And Daniel comes to see him and he's like, "Do you want to share?" And he's like, "I'll share a beer. I'm not sharing my feelings. Like that's not who I am." He's like, "I don't want to talk to you." But he tells Daniel that he and Hammond were attempting to establish an off-world base that he would be in command of in case anything were to happen to SGC. And Daniel's like, "You're really that pissy that you didn't get command like of a base?" And Jack's like, "No, you don't. Why would you think that that is who I am? Like that's not." He's like, "But it's
Yeah.
because." He's like, "It's
I
because
thought he. Go ahead.
No. What were you gonna say?"
Oh, I was just gonna say that I was like, is he really being like this because he's just pouting? Like, Jack, you're just
Right.
pouting that you're not in an off base SGC that you wanted to be in command of?
And Jack's like, "No, that's not it. It's the showing that the Pentagon doesn't take what we're doing seriously and they don't care about the potential of saving the world. And they're just going to pull the same bullshit that they pull with being friends with Russia." He didn't say this, but like being friends with Russia when it could kill them instead of like taking it seriously. Um, and yeah. And Daniel is like, "Yeah, but diplomacy is also a huge goal that we have in doing this." And Jack's like, "Diplomacy doesn't matter for shit if we're all gonna die. Like, that's not." Um, and Daniel's like, "If you actually believe all the things that you're saying, like, I don't think I actually know you at all." And Jack's like, "Apparently you don't." And he's like, "All these years of friendship." And Jack's like, "Mean nothing."
So mean. Jack is
Yeah.
so mean this episode.
Then the doorbell rings again. And I thought, "Oh man, it's going to be Sam." And it's just going to be like a list of all the people
I
that
thought so
Jack
too.
is like saying fuck off to. And
Right.
it isn't. It is
It is the last person I'm expecting.
Colonel Harry Maybourne.
Yep.
And Maybourne's like, "I have an offer for you." And Jack's like, "I would rather lick a hot coal than to have a conversation with you. Like, I don't know what you want from me."
I thought for sure he was going to offer him Area 51 because that's the last time we saw him like being shady was at Area 51. I was like, that's what's going to happen. It is
Well,
not. All
but
turned
it
out
is
for the
connected.
best, but
It is connected
yes.
to that.
Yes.
So he's like, I want you to lead a team that is going to do some retrieval of some enemy weapons, like on the Super DL, like some Black Ops shit. And Jack's like, that sounds illegal. And Maybourne's like, didn't say it wasn't. But
Right.
do you want to be bored at home? Um, and Jack's like, no, no, thank you. He's like, okay, well, when you get bored, call me. Um, and then we're back at SGC and we find out that they need a fourth member on their team, obviously. And Daniel is like, why can't they just like promote you like Sam?
Yeah.
And but Sam's like, that's not really how the military works. Like, I get it, but like I'm still a major. There's like a bunch of levels between me and that, and which is exactly what happens. Hammond brings someone on and says that this person is being assigned to your unit because they are the senior most military official at base, and this is SG-1, which is, while we don't personally like him, actually the most correct and valid.
It is the correct way to do things. However, if I was doing things, I would, again, punch him in the face and then fire him for being an
Again,
adult.
you are not a military general,
And
as
there's a reason
noted.
for that.
I was going to say, as noted by your response to these situations. So Colonel Makepeace is being assigned to SG-1 as the most senior member of the SGC, and Teal'c does not love it.
Took is also not in the
Sam
military,
is like
U.S. military.
Sam is like immediately respectful. Doesn't necessarily like it, but is immediately respectful because military.
No.
Danielle is at least willing to see the middle ground, even though he's not. He's going to openly say the things that he can as a civilian. Teal'c is just
Yes.
like, no thanks, walks away.
Yep.
Um,
I think I would probably take the Daniel approach out of all of them because I would still want to be heard, but I wouldn't want to like just walk away.
right. After a week of retirement, Jack calls Maybourne because apparently it only took a week for him to get so bored of himself. And he's like, what is this job? And he's like, I can't tell you much. And Jack's like, okay, but like, I need to know what I'm doing. And he goes, the mission is not only classified, it is secret. And once you're in, your options are either do it or disappear.
Go along with it or disappear. Those are not options. Those are not options.
So then they hop a plane, mostly just to hide from surveillance because Colonel Maybourne does not want anyone to know what he is doing. And it turns out that he has stolen a Goa'uld communicating orb.
Side note,
Yeah.
this is where I figured out the end of the episode.
Yeah, no. Is it? Fantastic.
I made a note.
Oh, I love that. I had seen the episode before, so that
Well, sure.
I don't really know. Actually, I paused it. I forgot to say this, but I paused it earlier at the point when Hammond offered Jack retirement and he agreed and just started laughing. And Dan was like, what's wrong? I go, I made a mistake. He was like, what is your mistake? I said, at the beginning of season 2, I made the mistake of telling Courtney that season 2 is the only season where every single of the the 5 top billed cast members are in every single episode. So now every time they make a comment about some shit like this, I just laugh trying to see how much she's going to panic about whether people are leaving the show or not.
That was whenever he went into retirement. That was my first. I was like, what season does he leave again?
Yeah,
and then I
so
moved forward.
Yeah. So at that moment, I just laughed, and he was like, "Was the dialogue funny?" I go, "No." Courtney's reaction to the idea of Jack retiring in the middle of the end of season 3 is what's funny. He goes, "Oh, okay." And then at one point, I go, "Oh, who the wall is?" And he was like, he told me who he thought it was. I go, yay, you know how to watch TV. And then he was like, okay. Um, but so Maybourne is using this orb to communicate with another gay. Oh, I said is using the communicating orb and using the other gate to send teams to other planets to get information, which was true. They're not using the other gate anymore because Hammond had them lock that shit up.
Sure.
But without having to trade, they're just stealing things. And so he uses the orb to call Newman, Major Newman, who's the kid from season 2 who tried to shoot Jack, and says he wants Jack to lead the mission of what they're doing.
Which, like, these people were very open to him just, like, coming in after they hated him, like, a season ago.
Right. They're also very vague as to what they're doing.
But it's, like super culty. It's like everyone's like, Maybourne says it, done, we're in. Like, I would have not as easily succumbed to this.
Correct. And we find out some of them have some pretty interesting motivations for why they're just willing to do the culty shit. Also, fuck Maybourne.
Yeah.
So then Jack comes to talk to Hammond and see if he can at least go back to Edora and like retire with Lara instead of being stuck bored here on Earth.
I knew she was coming back.
Which was such a beautiful sentiment. I was like, if he is really just going to have to retire forever, like, good on him for choosing the right answer.
I put my next line says, while this feels very off-brand, at least our episodes are lining up.
Right. This had to, even though it feels like it should have come before 100 days, it has to come after 100 days because otherwise Jack wouldn't have an excuse to go off-world.
Right.
So then he goes to Edora and then immediately uses the gate on Edora to meet up with Major Newman and Maybourne's team, which, if you hadn't figured out where the episode was going, that seemed real sketch.
Yeah.
I was like, after all that, you just lied to Hammond's face. Cute.
Right.
And also, poor fucking Lara that you showed up on Edora just to not actually talk to her.
Right? I was like, I hope she doesn't know he was there because I would have been devastated if I would have like seen him show up and disappear without like anything.
Yeah. So then he goes to Major Newman's team and he meets Lieutenant Tobias, who is a Wish version of Sam.
That is the 100% accurate description.
And he's like, you remind me of someone. She's like, oh yeah, Major Carter. I didn't get the job because she got it. So that checks out.
That should make you feel like real not good about working with her. It's like, okay, you didn't get the job because you can't do the job. So now you're doing the job just in a different planet. Like,
right, which, to be fair, Sam's better at it, but she's not bad at it. So, like,
yeah.
Okay. So then Harry gives Jack his first mission, and they're going to get a device that cloaks the wearer, like, in complete cloaking, like invisibility cloak. That's the word. I don't fucking know what I'm saying.
Like Harry Potter.
Yeah. From an Asgard protected planet.
Yeah, I was like, you cannot go against Thor, Jack. That is not allowed.
10 out of 10, not a good idea. So then later in the episode, when Thor was there, Dan goes,
like, I told you.
Dan was like, why is there an Asgardian there? I go, because they just stole shit from an Asgard planet, and the Asgard are smarter than them. And he was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah. So they do it. They get the stuff. They get back to their little secret hideout. Everything's fine. Maybourne sends them the coordinates of the drop to their inside man, their mole. And Jack's like, I'm going to make the drop myself. And Newman's like, you don't have to do that. And he's like, no, I want to, because I think that if you're going to lead a mission, you need to know how every piece of the mission works so that you can correctly lead it, which is like
correct.
So valid. Obviously, he had other intentions. And it was obvious, even watching it, that he definitely had other intentions, but super valid.
That part I would be good at in the military because I do need to know all the ins and outs before I move forward. So.
Yeah. So he's there for the drop, and then the gate activates immediately. And SG-1 comes through. for their op, and he hides and waits and watches. Makepeace grabs the tech because if anyone didn't see Makepeace as being the mole, they didn't watch this episode.
Yeah.
Or to be honest, any of the other episodes Makepeace has been in.
Truly.
Yeah.
He's only bad news.
Right. Dan goes, was he in the show before, or did they just like spring that on us? I go, no. He's been here before for us to not trust him. He goes, oh, okay. He was like, because I mean, it was obvious in the episode that that's who it was, but also it felt a little sudden. I go, it was not.
Yeah.
So once they leave, he leaves too, but then we see that Thor is watching them. Yikes. But mostly Thor is watching them intentionally. Jack knew Thor was watching them so that Thor can see where Jack dials to go back to the secret hideout. And then an Asgard ship lands on their secret hideout and starts taking all of the stolen tech back. And they're like, what is happening? And Jack goes, you fucked with the wrong race of people. And here I have the gate open. I'll stand on the other side and hold it open. But either you come with me or you get kidnapped by the Asgard. Those are your options. Sucks to suck. And they all go follow him back to Earth where they are immediately arrested.
Immediately.
Along with Colonel Makepeace. And it turns out the whole thing was a long con.
And I totally called it.
And the Asgard and Toland had both contacted Hammond separately, saying that they thought someone from Earth was stealing technology from them. Hammond was absolutely sure it was a rogue agent, and that because he obviously did not authorize anything to be stolen. And in order to prove that, he wanted to prove that to them. And the Toland said, based on their principles of justice, that these people would have to find out who the mole was for themselves. And the Asgardians said that Jack was the only one that they trusted enough to be in on the mission. And the rest of SG-1 is like, but we're your team. Like, you didn't trust us enough. And Jack was like, I don't know what to tell you. They like me.
That was the funniest thing. He's like, they like me. It's like, Thor loves him.
It's true. The team is a little hurt that they didn't tell him, but then they got their revenge because Jack asks Daniel to walk with him and apologizes for the stuff he said and was like, we are friends. I'm sorry. And he was like, but I do want you to know that it really meant a lot that you came to see me. And Daniel's like, okay, but it didn't because we drew straws and I lost.
That was so funny. This was just a really good episode.
It was. It was a really good episode. It was really it felt short because everything actually was paced well and flowed together.
And I figured it out, but I didn't figure it out till closer to the end. It was after halfway when I figured it out.
Right.
So it was good timing for the story too.
And I obviously knew what was coming, but in terms of what I was able to just figure out immediately by watching it, if I made first guess assumptions, obviously it was very obvious that Colonel Makepeace was the bad guy.
I mean,
I assumed that Jack was lying, but I wasn't 100% sure until I saw Thor.
See, I thought at first he was possessed by an alien or something, and that's why he was acting out. I never thought it was just Jack. But
no, I did think that there was a slight possibility that it could have been just Jack because he did act a lot like Kurt Russell's Jack in the movie.
Sure, yeah.
There was a lot of throwbacks to that, and I thought particularly the conversation with him and Daniel and talking about how they don't actually know each other was a throwback to that relationship via the movie, which I thought gave it just enough credibility that it could be. I didn't think it was. My gut reaction was that it wasn't. My knowledge of the show, obviously, is that it wasn't, but I thought that they did it well enough to sprinkle just enough truth in there to make it potential.
Yeah, when he landed on this new planet that the shady people were on, that's when I was like, oh, he's an informant. Like he's doing this to
right.
figure out what's going on for Hammond. So yeah.
We do have a couple pieces of trivia and a couple goof
Well,
things. One goof that I actually noticed in the episode was that Daniel's beer bottle, Jack hands it to him uncapped, but then when he sits down to drink it, it is capped again. And I saw the cap and go, I know he just said he didn't like beer, but I'm 98% sure it was already open. It was.
yeah.
Um, there This one is listed under crazy credits, which I did not know was a category on
I
IMDb,
love
but it's my
crazy
new
credits.
favorite.
I love that
The
category.
original season 3 North American DVD menu for this episode, which I'm a little disappointed that I watched it not at home, so I watched it on Amazon. I'm gonna have to go look at the DVD menu. But the original DVD menu for this episode has an image of a man dressed in a tribal helmet with a number of tribal tattoos around his face, neck, chest, and arms. However, this character never once appears in the episode, nor anything or anyone like him at all.
That is a choice.
Right? I think that was called a mistake, is what that is.
Yeah.
But yeah, no idea who that person
That's
is or
so
why
funny.
he is the credit.
Love that.
Trivia. There's a couple silly things. Like Christian Bosher, who plays Major Newman, later starred in a parody show called Wormhole Extreme, where he played the parody of the Dr. Jackson character.
Stop. I can't.
His character was named Dr. Levant, who was a parody of Dr. Jackson.
Is this like out in the world for people to watch?
I'm sure it is, yeah. That one has a spoiler, but when Maybourne visits Jack House for the second time, Jack is reading Mad Magazine, issue 385, which is the June 1999 issue. This one is important for later. Dr. Frasier got promoted at some point where we were not watching the show.
And no one told us?
Nope. She is no longer a captain. She is now also a major. She is wearing the gold oak leaf cluster on her shoulder when Colonel O'Neill is with her. Because she is in and out of the episode so much, it makes sense that her promotion wasn't where we could see it, but she is officially a major as well.
Good for her. She deserves it.
And this is my favorite piece of trivia because I love when directors choose musical pieces that directly foreshadow things. So when Maybourne came to Jack's house and he was listening to that opera music, the piece that he was listening to was an aria was a Pagliacci aria called Vesti la Giuba, which in the Italian translates to put on the costume.
Love that.
So
it's my favorite fun fact.
It directly foreshadows the fact that from there on out, we are not seeing the real Jack.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Right?
Beautiful. Perfect.
Yeah,
you nailed the story. 9 stars. You should be 9 stars this week.
Right. So, who do you want to punch?
Maybourne. No question. 1,000 times. I always want to punch Maybourne.
That's super valid. Because you picked Maybourne, I obviously have to pick Colonel Makepeace because fuck that guy.
Absolutely. Yeah. Also always want to punch him.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, you know what sucks though? Colonel Makepeace was able to be arrested. They can't do shit to Maybourne. And that sucks.
Yeah. So returning So Maybourne will be returning. I'm sorry, I've been watching all of my Marvel movies again. I've been been doing my Marvel rewatch.
Oh,
And at the
good,
end of
good.
every episode, or at the end of every movie, it's like
So
Spider-Man
and
will
so will
return.
return in. Yeah.
So that's what I was
Um,
thinking of. Maybourne will return. I don't know if he does or not, but that's my prediction for today.
I mean, how could we continue the show without him as
No,
that pivotal villain?
he's so
We don't
shady.
so
He's like
shady.
an at-home shady. He's not Ra or Papas or one of these Egyptian god system lords taking over the world. He is at home with us. Like,
Right.
ugh.
He is the human version
Right.
of the
Like,
shadiest shit.
this show makes a comment on the military, so you've got to have shady military. Like,
Right. No, for sure.
right. Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, no, I am so sorry to tell you that he will be back.
Yes. Yes. Well,
Um,
my prediction was correct then.
yeah. Who is your MVP?
I mean, it's Jack.
Right.
Just Jack. So I've been doing that quite a bit lately since Sean Hayes is in Goodnight Oscar.
Right.
Anytime I say Sean Hayes and someone's like, I don't know who that is, I go, just Jack. And they're like,
Yeah.
what?
My MVP, while Jack did a fantastic job, and obviously we have once again a Jack-centric episode, and we all know how deeply, deeply I love Richard Dean Anderson. I am actually picking someone who I think had a harder acting job for as a not the actor, but as a character. Yeah. And I'm going to pick General Hammond.
Mm-hmm. That
because he lied straight to Teal'c Sam and Daniel's face.
There's a reason he's the general.
Like repeatedly lied to their face.
Yeah.
To save the planet.
He would have been my other pick. Like, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so that was the episode. I feel like this is like one of our shortest recordings ever. Because sometimes
I don't think so. It's been like 50 minutes or so. We started at like what, like 125? No, we didn't. 125, 130?
I don't remember when we actually started. Something around 1:30, I guess. So maybe it's not as short as I was thinking. It just felt very fast, but so did the episode.
It's very smooth. Yeah.
The next episode, my little teaser for the next episode, is honestly, that I don't remember this episode at all.
Do you want me to give a teaser?
What?
Do you want me to give a teaser?
Well, no, I mean, you can give a teaser for Thursday's episode of our podcast, but I'm saying my teaser for next week of Stargate is that it'll be interesting because
I watched it already.
Oh, right. That's right. You did watch it already. You can give a teaser. I genuinely do not remember anything about this episode. I just like looked at it and reread it, and I remember nothing. I mean, I know it's rated terribly, and
because it's 0% connected to anything we've ever seen before.
Fantastic.
That is your teaser.
I figured that that's where we were at because it's episode 19. And so they need to get like their one last one-off unconnected thing in before they ramp up for the end of the season. Because
before you have our 3-episode arc that leads us into the next season. Yeah.
Yeah, so we do. I mean, and the last 3 episodes of the season are, while maybe not as connected as some of our like 2-parter episodes, they are a ramp up to the end of the season and like getting you ready for season 4. So next week is our one last, does not have any effect on anything episode.
Good. Well, I'm glad I've already watched it then. So now I'm just looking forward to the future. I mean, everyone still has to watch this episode.
Right.
Because it's important. Even if it's not. It's important because I said it was.
So. I mean, and there will be like lore things that happen because in every episode, even the ones that haven't had an effect on the overall plot, there's been like technology things that we see for the first time in this episode, or like there's always something.
We get a connection to Ra. There's your teaser.
Great. Is it the credits?
No, not this time.
Good.
A storyline connection.
Fantastic. So maybe it's not as completely unrelated as,
Yeah,
yeah,
sure.
sure.
We'll see. We'll say
Um,
that.
with that, this is the end of our SG-1 episode, our Sci-Fi Sunday. Stay tuned for our Thriller Thursday episode where I will lose my absolute mind.
Mhm.
I'm not even
Correct.
prepared for what I'm going to be like in that episode.
I'm so stoked.
If you have predictions about the end of the season
World,
three, well,
as
the
we
end of the
know it.
world, sure. Yeah, the end of season three of Stargate. If you want to predict what punishment Colonel Maybourne will have to face for this bullshit that he is involved in, um, please send us an email at deafandaliens@gmail.com or follow us on all of the social media at Death and Aliens. You can also follow me everywhere at ENKAY_superstar.
And you can follow me at CE Cloud 13.
And we will see you on Thursday.
Bye.
Bye.